Hi there guys, and welcome to another edition of the Cover Zero show with me, your host Simon Conboy, continuing on with the draft review series today. Finally moving on to the Western divisions. This episode we will be covering the NFC West. So just going to hop straight in on this one and get to the Arizona Cardinals. So with the first selection they had, I believe it was the 13th pick, they selected one of my favourite players in the draft, Haason Reddick, the linebacker from Temple. Stock flew up by all accounts towards draft time. Was one of my top 10 prospects on the board, and I think this is a really good selection for this team. There was a big hole with Kevin Minter having left. They've certainly improved. I think Reddick will develop into a better player, and I think he fits what this team does very well. He was used all over the place at Temple. That's what this defence is. It's the epitome of a multiple defence. I think he can be used to blitz. He can probably develop his coverage skills. Most college backers aren't great in that regard. I think he adds a lot of versatility, athleticism, and just overall talent to this defence. So I think this is a really, really solid pick at this point. I think he was better than the corners that were available. Possibly. No, I think this was really, unless they really wanted to take a shot on Reuben Foster. And even then, Reddick may be a better fit for their defence. So I think this was probably the best pick this team could have made at this juncture. So I think this is a rock solid selection. Really like their second pick as well. Buda Baker, the safety from Washington, he'll be stepping right in to replace the departed Tony Jefferson. Traded up in order to get him at the top of the second round, 2 4th-rounders. Not in love with the trade. Do think there were a lot of safeties available in this round, but I do think that Baker was probably the best of them that was available between him and Melifonwu, and to be honest, Baker fits more what they need in a more traditional strong safety to play alongside Tyrann Mathieu. Once again, I think this is a decent pick. I'm not sure about the trade. I don't know if it was necessary, but it's a really good player. I think it's a decent range for him, and again, I think he'll be relied upon to step in right away for this team. So that's another solid selection. Then addressing another need with the 98th pick, Chad Williams, wide receiver from Grambling. Had an off-the-field arrest, but this is a talented player. Could certainly have seen him being taken in the second round. I think he's in a similar tier with some of the guys that went there. They've done a pretty good job in terms of getting the players with the character issues. Tyrann Mathieu, of course, fell to the third as a result of his entire college story, for the most part. And the Arians does seem to do a pretty good job has done a great job there. Was a big need. I think again, although there are risks attached to this, it's a talented player that could help immediately. We'll see what happens there. But again, I think this is a real solid pick. Pick 115, Dorian Johnson, the guard from Pittsburgh. I think this is one of the better guards. Fell because of medical concerns. Again, this is another player that could step in. This team, Arians has been quite adamant in saying, the window is still there, but I think they're well aware, with Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald retiring possibly at the end of this season, or maybe the season after if this one goes well and they're close. They need to improve now. It's a bit of a change in approach, but this is another player that could step in right away. They did need some help across that offensive line. They were ravaged by injury last year. So here's another really good pick. And then pick 157, sticking with the offensive line. They selected Will Holden, the offensive tackle from Vanderbilt. So more depth there. Again, that was a need. Running back TJ Logan with pick 179. I think this is great value. Logan was one of the players I quite liked. So this gives him a good backup there. Solid pick. and pick 208, Jonathan Ford, the safety from Auburn. Yeah, at that range, I'd expect him to play special teams. If they can develop him, then great job there. But yeah, I think this is a really good draft for this team. The needs were pretty obvious. I think they've addressed them all with players that could potentially contribute immediately. I think there's high upside to a lot of these players. Baker and Reddick in particular, I think, could be very good players down the line. Bit dubious on the trade, but other than that, I think they've got good players at positions of needs in appropriate spots, and there's possibly some late value there. I think the Logan pick could end up being a very savvy one. Probably don't want David Johnson getting quite as many carries or touches of the ball as he had last year, otherwise his career may not be the longest. So I think this was an absolutely rock solid draft. The only issue I've got is I still think they're very soft at corner, but considering what they did do with their picks, I think you've got to be a bit forgiving of them. Can only, I guess, fill so many holes. So I think this is one of the better drafts. Really big fan of what the Cardinals have done in this season's draft. I think this team was looking a lot iffier heading into the draft. Now they will be relying, I think, on these rookies to fill some pretty big holes, especially defensively. I still think there are some problems there at corner and on the defensive line. But if some guys can step up that are already there, Robert Nkemdiche, I mean you in particular, they could be maybe better than people think. I'll be interested to see if they can challenge the Seahawks this year. Moving on, we will head to LA and the Rams, who of course didn't have a first rounder as part of the Jared Goff trade, which seems to look worse with each passing day. First selection they made was Gerald Everett, the tight end from South Alabama. I think he's a good player. I just think there were better options on the board. I think this is a team in desperate need of talent on offense, and this is a talent. Just think tight ends maybe not the most significant of positions. There were some receivers on the board that I think could have helped them. Whilst I'm not the biggest fan of Juju Smith-Schuster, I think maybe he would have been a better option at this point. So it's an okay pick. Pick 69, Cooper Kupp. I personally really liked Kupp. I think this is the right kind of range for him. I think he helps this team a lot in terms of, I think he'll be a reliable possession receiver for them. He's quite refined. I think he'll be able to step in and contribute straight away, which is exactly what they need. They have been very, very poor at wide receiver for a while. So we'll see if they can actually get him the ball. That'll be my big question here, but I think this is a sound pick. It's the right range, and I think he will contribute immediately, probably be their best target. They've then gone for another receiver, Josh Reynolds, pick 1-1. First, John Johnson, safety from Boston College, pick 91. I was not familiar with this fellow, so I did a little bit of looking into it. Not sure why they went with him. I've not been able to find anything. Of course, seems like a huge reach. Maybe prove wrong, but this does look like a pretty horrible pick. Pick 1170, Josh Reynolds, as I mentioned before, wide receiver from Texas A&M. I thought he played quite well there. It's always difficult to judge with that scheme because it is so open and you don't see a lot of NFL routes being run. But he was solid there. Again, this team needed a lot of help at wide receiver. I think he's definitely got potential to develop into a decent number 2. So I think this is a good range for him, and I think this is a very, very solid pickup. Pick 125, Samson Ebukam, pass rusher from Eastern Washington. I'm not entirely sure about this one. Seems a bit high. Wasn't someone that was on my radar at all. So we'll see. Wade Phillips may know what he's doing there. Pick 189, Tanzel Smart, defensive tackle from Tulane. more depth there. There's pretty good on the D-line. I'm surprised we're addressing it. I know they've changed scheme. Bit dubious of going there. Pick 206, Sam Rogers, fullback from Virginia Tech. Always dubious about fullback being drafted, but from what I've heard, he's very good. So this could work. Need to try and get Todd Gurley going next season. Last year was a mess. So at this range, I suppose if he's going to be a starter, then it's likely a solid pick. Pick 234, Ajuan Price, another pass rusher from Pitt. And again, we'll see what happens there. I think they're okay in that department, but of course with the scheme change, they may just be trying to find more options for the future. This draft it doesn't look good to me. Like the receiver selections, there's not really too much else I'd be happy with here. I think Everett was certainly not the biggest need. I do think he could end up being a productive player, but I do think tight end was something they could have waited to address later. I do think there are a lot of good options in this draft. I think both Cup and Reynolds, as I say, big fan of those picks. I think everything else is a bit strange to me. The John Johnson one is one that looks to me like one of the bigger reaches of the draft. Still a lot of needs there in Los Angeles. Can't believe the offensive line wasn't addressed in any way. Whilst they have got better there, the guys they signed in free agency are older. Even if it wasn't a great class, I'm sure they could have attempted to get a guard. There were some guys that were pretty decent, I think, in the 4th and 5th. It doesn't look like a great draft again from the Rams to me. They have really struggled in this part of the year. Most parts of the year for a while now. We'll see what happens. They are, of course, just going to be relying on Jared Goff to show them something next year. I'm not sure this draft's helped enormously. Although, as I say, I do think Cup will have a decent season for them. Assuming the pass protection can hold up, that is a concern. So we'll move on to first-time GM John Lynch and the San Francisco 49ers. The team with one of the mightiest falls from grace possibly in the history of the league. So they had the second overall pick and pulled off one of the draft heists of the century in trading back one pick, picking up 2/3 and a 4th in the process, and still getting the guy they were going to select in all likelihood in Solomon Thomas. Now, I am not a fan of Solomon Thomas on tape, but I do understand why he's such a highly regarded prospect. I think this was a pretty weak draft on the defensive line, especially in the interior. And, the upside and athleticism here are certainly, you can see it, even on the tape, as much as I have issues with some of the laziness, in my opinion, and some substandard play, lack of effort. There are flashes of incredible talent there. So the selection does make a degree of sense. Again, they've invested very heavily on the defensive line. So that absolutely has to come together. 3 first rounders there now in Armstead, Solomon Thomas, and DeForest Buckner. So I think they're all top 10 picks. So that has to work out for them. The upside here is very high. If this guy can get it together, he could be a perennial Pro Bowler. So I love the trade though. So. Frankly, though, the trade up to get Reuben Foster may sort of neutralise my feelings there a little bit. Foster was one of my favourite prospects in the draft. Of course, fell, it would seem, because of this shoulder concern. It's a great selection for them. Bowman is still on the roster, so even if I don't know what physical condition Bowman's going to be in, that is a great mentor for this kid to have, and I think he's going to be able to step in day one, and as long as his health is good, this kid can play. He's going to be a fantastic sideline backer for them. Of course, incredible value. The health concerns are the only thing that worry me, but I think this is a home run of a pick. Didn't give up much to move up to get him, so I think they nailed that one. Great job there. Akello Witherspoon with pick 66, corner from Colorado. I think this is a decent pick as well. I think it's the right kind of range for him in a pretty deep corner class. There was certainly a need there. So whether he'll contribute early, I'm not so sure. It didn't look the most pro-ready at times, but I think it's good value, good range, so good job there. It's another solid pick. Pick 104, CJ Beathard, QB from Iowa. I've not even looked into this guy, so this one was a bit of a shock to me. I looked into it and I just thought I didn't really see where the upside was. I didn't see anything particularly outstanding. I saw a guy that doesn't look ready to play and maybe average arm strength at best, didn't have particularly good mobility, so I'm not too sure about this one. I'd say this looked like a reach and was a very strange pick. It was all going so well, guys. Then pick 121, Joe Williams, running back from Utah. This is another one I'm not too sure about. Some character issues there. Quit the team. He's a bit older, and I think it was a very, very good draft for running backs. I think this was a bit of a strange decision at this point. Bit of a reach. There were better guys available. I have to be critical of this one personally. Although managed to salvage it, get back in my good books. Pick 146, George Kittle, the tight end. I think this was a very good selection. I haven't got too much at that spot. Guy's got a lot of upside. I don't know if he'd be immediately ready to contribute, but in this range, I think that's fine. Upside is what you're after. So I think that's a rock solid pick. Pick 177, Trent Taylor, wide receiver from Louisiana Tech. Looks like a slot receiver to me. Again, wasn't too familiar with him. They need weapons, so I can't criticise them for taking a receiver. We'll see if that one pans out. Pick 198, DJ Jones, nose tackle from Ole Miss. They're converting, aren't they? I'm sure they're converting to a 4-3. So, backup nose tackle. That's fair enough, I suppose. Pick 202, Peter Taumapinu. Not going to do well with some of the Pacific-based names. Assuming that it's a Pacific-based name there. Defensive end from Utah. This was a strange one. 7 career starts. Undersized player. There must have been something they liked about him, so we'll see what happens there. It seems a bit of an odd one. Pick 229, Adrian Colbert, cornerback from Miami. Once again, this is another one of those where you can never have too many corners if he can even help on special teams. That would be a solid pick, but a 7th rounder, probably not going to achieve too much. This draft, a bit of a mixed bag. A couple of picks I'm really high on, a couple I really don't like. As I say, my opinion on Solomon Thomas is not the most positive. The Beathard and Williams picks are head scratchers, but then the Kittle, Foster and Witherspoon picks are really good. So if I include the trade, I think it comes out as an above average draft. Had the potential to be great with that move and some of the players that fell to them. I just think the execution in terms of selecting some of the players wasn't the best. But I think compared to what they have been doing recently, this does actually look like a move forward. I don't think Lynch has done a terrible job in this draft, so that's good as a Bucks fan. I want to see him do well. This team's still far away, at least another year. Defensively, they've got to be good. They've got so many first rounders that are going to be starting on that defense. It's got to start to come together. Offensively, it looks like they're probably going to be a mess again. Shanahan's got his work cut out there, but this draft wasn't too bad. We'll see how these guys fit into the offense. And Reuben Foster, I think that goes down as one of the picks of the draft for me. So not a bad job at all. Moving on to the perennial NFC powerhouse Seattle Seahawks, who traded back out of the first round, as they have been very much want to do in the last few years. They don't seem to like having that 4-year contract with the option for some reason. Kind of scored this one in my mock. My initial mock had him taking him. So they traded down and got Malik McDowell, defensive tackle from Michigan State, with pick 35. This is a difficult one. I mentioned him a lot in the draft preview series because kind of like Solomon Thomas, except with more of the issues where you can see the talent there. I think he's definitely one of the more talented interior linemen in the draft, probably at number 2 just behind Jonathan Allen, but apparently didn't do a good job in presenting himself to teams at the combine. There's some horrible film of just lackluster play with a low motor and a lack of general enthusiasm for football. So if there's one team that could possibly turn that around, and I think that's one of the reasons they've gone for him here, is a need. So good in that regard. This is a very high upside pick, but it could quite easily end up being a bust. So I can't get too excited about this one. I understand the pick. I think there's a reasonable chance it could have been available a fair bit later, but perfectly fine. Pick 58, Ethan Pocic, the interior lineman from LSU. I did say I figured he would go in the second. I'm glad I got that one right, and I will put this one down to, as I say, versatility. You can definitely see him playing either one of those positions. Some may I can get, in terms of talent level, this does appear a bit of a reach, but I think having this kind of player is invaluable. His team has struggled in the trenches. They were atrocious on the offensive line for most of last season. So I think it's a perfectly reasonable pick. I think the range doesn't feel great for the talent level, but I don't think they had a choice here. No chance he would have been available when they were next picking. So pick 90, Shaq Griffin, corner from Central Florida. This certainly felt like a Seattle pick. A long, rangy corner. You may not know a huge amount about. I think he looks a lot like the sort of, a fair bit like Sherman physically. Maybe a future replacement with him in mind. Who knows? Trade talks were out there for a reason, I suppose. They needed to address the position beyond Sherman. I think they look quite, Simon's an okay player there. Definitely need a bit of work. I think this is a good pick. I think it fits what they do. I think it's a good range for him. So, I think they nailed that one. Then pick 95, Delano Hill, safety from Michigan. It's a strange one, considering, again, as I've said, it's been a great safety draft. This one feels like a reach to me. But we'll see what they do there. Not particularly impressed with that pick. I didn't even have him on my radar for the first 3 rounds. So, a bit confused there. Pick 102, Nazir Jones, a bit of a tweener D lineman from North Carolina. Again, this one looked like a bit of a reach. I think they're looking at that versatility, use him in multiple roles, kind of like they do with Michael Bennett. Whether he's got the talent to do it, I'm not so sure. So, I feel this one was a bit of a reach. Pick 106, Amara Darbo, wide receiver from Michigan. I think this is a decent pick. I think it's the right range. Not sure he'll see a lot of snaps early on, but that might be good for him. Certainly got a bit more speed than they've perhaps got after the injury to Tyler Lockett. Who knows how he'll come back, but having another speedy option is probably a good thing there. So I think that's a good pick. Then pick 111, Tedrick Thompson, another safety from Colorado. And they really liked picking up safeties this year. Yes, this again is some more depth there. We'll see how this one pans out. Again, this isn't someone I had on my radar personally. And then another one, Mike Tyson, great name there. Pick 187. Yeah, what? They really do like drafting safeties. Is Cam Chancellor on his way out next year? Is that what they're telling us? Again, a pick this late. We'll see if they can develop him. Then we got Justin Senior with pick 210, an offensive tackle from Mississippi State. We'll see what happens there. Tend not to see offensive tackles pick this late panning out. Pick 226, David Moore, wide receiver from East Central Oklahoma. We'll see what happens there. And 249, Chris Carson, running back from Oklahoma State. Shocked they didn't go running back earlier. One of the things I was expecting actually was when they picked up Pocic. I thought that was a great spot for them to take Alvin Kamara. But they got this guy. We'll see what happens there. apparently good athlete, but yeah, you look at his career numbers, they're not particularly impressive. So yeah, not a particularly big fan of this draft. Normally, I think the Seahawks are pretty savvy. This year, it seems clear they're targeting guys, I think, off their own spectrum. Certainly don't seem to have too much care for what the sort of consensus range is, which is, that's fair, trusting in your scouting stuff, and they have done a good job as of late. So, but it doesn't look like a great draft to me. Not sure about drafting free safeties. That's a bit of a strange one to me. McDowell could easily be a bust, although again I understand with the need at the position and the talent he possesses. I understand that one. I don't have a particular problem with it. Pocic is also fine, but then everything that, and I like the Griffin pick, but everything after that just looks strange to me. Not addressing the offensive line significantly, especially the tackle position, I think is a big mistake that could bite this team pretty heavily, and I just don't see too much impact. Feel they still could have done with a running back. I think, as I said earlier, Kamara would have been, I think, perfect for them. So again, this is one of those teams. I don't think this draft has helped them in the short run, and in the long run, there may be a lot of upside there. There may be something they see in these players that I don't. But this looks like a pretty poor draft to me. So there we have it. That is the NFC West. If I'm going to score this in terms of ranking them, I don't think this division did a great job. The Cardinals did. Love their draft. And the Niners, I think they had a solid draft. I think perfectly reasonable. So that's my 1 and 2 respectively. Love what the Cardinals did. I think they certainly helped themselves. Niners definitely got better. And then the Rams or Seahawks, I really don't like both of these. I'll have them both tied for bottom. We'll skip thirds. They're both fourth. I don't like either one of these drafts at all. Very dubious about a lot of the selections made. The Rams, at least, they're going to have some guys that will see the field. I think maybe Pocic, and they'll be hoping McDowell does, possibly Griffin, but it all looks a bit spotty to me. Feel the Seahawks did a poor job of attacking needs, and the Rams, they've got so many, are just a bit sketchy on some of their picks. So I don't like what those two have done. Good job, John Lynch. Pretty good first draft though, so give you a shout there. So let me know, what do you guys think? Any of you NFC West fans agree, disagree? Anything egregious you feel I've said? Any picks you're a big fan of or you particularly despised? Give us a shout, whether it's the comment section below. Find us on Facebook at Cover Zero, or find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. I'll do my absolute best to get in touch with everyone who does make contact. Always fun to talk ball. And as always, if you've enjoyed this one, like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. All of the NFL will be done by the end of today. I've just got the AFC West to do after this. And yeah, enjoy those. There's a fair bit of stuff. And as always, been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great day, and go Bucks.